G'day Bomber fans. The other day I was scrolling YouTube and I saw a pretty good video idea from True Footy on his second channel, True Eagle. Legend over there, by the way. Great channels. Go check them out if you haven't already. The guy's a content machine. But he's posted a pre-trade period best 22 for his team West Coast. And I think that is the perfect way to see how a club develops their list in the off-season. A cheeky before and after. So today I'm going to create Essendon's best available 22 right or 23 with a sub. I'll be including Jake Stringer, Dylan Shield, anyone still on our list. I won't be including Isaac Kako because he is not yet on our list. This is me making a best team right now that I would want playing for a win right now. And then after the trade period, after the draft, I'll do updated versions. This isn't what I want the team to look like round one next year. I have players here that I think should be traded. It's the team that I would think would be most likely to win a game of footy right now from our list, so let's get into it. Alright, let's go zone by zone, starting with defence. The fullback line is an easy one to pick. In fact, I think I'll straight away pin forward names down for our best 22. Andy McGrath, Ben Mackay, Jordan Ridley, and Mason Redman. I think those are the four defenders who, if fit, play every game, and then the rest of the back line is built around them. I'm assuming Laverty is still on the list, which means choosing the third key defender is between him and Zach Reid. And I think the club showed their hand in round one last year by playing Reid over Laverty before his injury. This is a fully fit best 23, and everything from the club suggests Zach Reid, if fit, is in that best team ahead of Laverty, and Laverty is depth. I think you can at least tinker around a bit with them both, though. You wouldn't want to play Mackay and Reid against a team like Melbourne who don't utilise big marking targets. For games like that, Laverty can come in to give us more oomph on ground level instead of Reid. But I think picking a best 22, it's Reid over Laverty. And now that for that flank spot, as you can see, Archie Roberts is there. I think he showed enough promise last season to keep his spot in round one. He was a tad underdone, a tad lean, so he got bumped over pretty easily once or twice. But I love his work rate. I love his ability to see ball, get ball from the defensive half. You rarely see kids taken at pick 54, whatever it was, get that much of the footy in their first few games. Steal of a draft pick, and he's only going to get better with size and maturity. I think this is a guy we need to persist with. And now the other option, I guess, instead of him, because we are pretty flat in that area right now, the only option is more of a wingman in Saad El Hawley. He looks pretty damaging, and I have no doubt if he stays fit next year, he will play senior footy at some point, but I just need to see more of him in our system before I pick him in these videos. But I'm pretty bullish about what he can offer to our team next year. The back six looks good at its best. I think those four concrete players are really good and just need a bit more help, and this kind of shows you that we do need a bit of a quick fix for depth. We're relying on an unfit Zach Reid and a first year in player in Archie Roberts. There needs to be a bit more there. Saad El Hawley is pretty much the only other general defender we have right now that can play AFL. That is because I'm moving Martin to a wing, but also in saying that, I would be resigned to the idea of Martin staying down back if we cannot find more general defensive coverage. I know people hated Kelly, but him retiring has left us with little to no wiggle room down back, and the replacement we get for him will likely be a reject from another club anyway. This is becoming a worrying area of the field for Essendon, where we're seriously lacking in running small backs, and those are important in the AFL as we see. We'll see how we go. We cover those losses, but as of right now, it's Archie Roberts in the first team. Alright, the midfield, as I touched on before, I have Martin back on the wing opposite Xavier Dersma, and that is an excellent combo, by the way, and genuinely, I'm not just saying this, but that would be one of the better wing combos in the league if they both stay there and stay fit. Dersma had some injury troubles. I know those outside the club wouldn't see his impact firsthand, but I thought he would be a chance for a top 5 Crichton spot if he played every game, and I know a lot of you guys would agree. He was genuinely awesome when he played. I loved what he brings to our system. He's more of that stable play to a system wingman, unheralded almost. Guys like Ed Langdon are kind of like that, whereas Martin on the other side gives you less defensive stability, but gives you so much going forward, like Massimo, that Hollywood wingman that doesn't do the defensive work as much, but gets so much of the ball and does good things with it. I think that would be an elite combo, and I hope we find enough defensive depth to allow it to work. In the guts, we have Merritt, Parrish, and Caldwell. There are some more on the bench I'll get to later. Brian in the ruck. Now, I do think he's our starting ruck next year, our number one ruck. I think he showed that, and I reckon starting from round one, persisting with him would only result in him getting better and better, and that showed this season. He came in late, he struggled to adjust to AFL speed after being stuck in the reserves. He was beaten soundly by Ned Moyle, he struggled for impact against Freo, but then when he got used to the pace in his role, he was actually having a proper impact. He beat Brodie Grundy against Sydney, he wasn't far off McInerney either, so there are signs of a good ruckman there. He just needs another pre-season, some more strength and some more time in his role. He gets that. I think he becomes our number one stoppage ruck over time, to be honest. Alright, Alrighty, the forward line, this is the one that will probably change the most if one move eventuates. Jake Stringer wants to leave, but because he hasn't yet, I have him in the team. It's a forward line led by Draper, but only really to take pressure off young Caddy and the smaller Langford. So really, there are two big marking targets in Draper and Caddy. There's a leading deep forward in Langford and Jake Stringer, who you kind of have to play because of his goal-scoring ability. You could definitely make the argument for Wright returning if he finds form. That would make the ruck situation a bit tricky, though. I do have Jones on the bench as more of a role player. He can rest forward, play wing. He's shown he has genuine versatility, but I'll get to that later. So there are options to shift this around on the run, which we would have to. Draper will, of course, ruck, but when resting forward, he kicked a goal a game, so there's something there. The smalls will be upgraded when we get Kako. As for right now, I have Mac Guelphy, our best small forward, and Jade Gresham, who we really need to see more from. Look, it's a forward line that needs more. I think this is the one area you look at and realise we're just not ready to contend yet with. At least, though, we have Caddy and Kako coming in for the future. Jones is developing, so this very much could be a season where we look at the forward line, the forward half of the field, and find things to like for the future, especially if Stringer goes. If Stringer leaves, it becomes a forward line that we're really building on. But in saying that, teams like Freo have proven how fast they can change. No one thought Josh Tracy was going to have the impact he had. We all said they would drop in goals because they lost Schultz and Henry, and then they came in and scored more goals than they did with them. So sometimes it's as simple as the best goal scorer leaving, allowing others to flourish. But as for now, let's say Stringer stays. You'd be silly not to pick him in your team. I think he leaves though, so the best 22 video after the trade period will look very different. On the bench, Dylan Shields showed when he played that he's still a best 22 player. Does that mean I want him in our team next year? Not really, but he is still a good player, a good clearance option. So if he stays, he plays. Archie Perkins, I know he dropped off, but we can't just discount what he's like at his best. I think round 1 last year proves that we need to persist with him. That wasn't just a good game from a young player. That was a best on-ground performance. He was one of 6 different Essendon players to receive 10 coaches' votes in a game last year. A performance like that is only really common for guys like Zach Merritt. We got to use him more and try and get more games like that out of him, get the best out of him. I expect big things from Perkins next year. He's in my team. Durham as well, of course. Harry Jones, I touched on. He can play forward, play wing. He's what we wanted Nick Cox to be, which is why I don't think we can have Cox in the team. If we're fully fit, I don't think there's room for both Cox and Jones, so I have Jones. And my sub would be Ben Hobbs. It just gives you a bit of grunt and a feeling late in a game when he comes on. Can play midfield. He's played up forward, bit versatile and has big game experience, so won't get overwhelmed coming onto the field. Alright, overall team, this is going to change. As I said at the start of the video and in my title, this is a pre-trade period best 22 with players we have on our list that won't be here in a few weeks. Stringer might leave, Laverty might leave, Shield might leave, who knows, but I think the worrying thing for me is that it isn't an attractive best 22 as it is, and we may be losing players from it still without direct replacements for the time being as well. We don't have anyone linked in yet. Stringer leaving takes away 42 goals in a season. I don't think any other player rises to score those extra goals. I could see Jones scoring maybe an extra 5 or 6 with his split role. Caddy wouldn't get more than 30 in his second season. Draper is another splitting time between different roles. This team clearly has some holes in it, and of course it would have holes in it before a trade period. We've just got rid of 6 or 7 players with no replacements yet. This is the worst time for a best 22 to look. This isn't a prediction for round 1 next year. I think it's what it looks like right now, and it looks bad. As of right now, it is not a great looking team. We'll see what we need to do to improve it. I think a general and key defender would be good. Some forward firepower would be handy as well. Real quick as well, some guys that missed out. Nick Cox, Peter Wright, Alan Davey Jr., Jai Menzies, Elijah Sartas, Goldstein, Laverty, and someone really quick I want to touch on just before I go, Lewis Hayes. He was close to being ready last year. He was probably a pre-season away. He was a tad lean and got bullied a bit by bigger forwards in the VFL. But one more pre-season, do we now see him break into this team? This is a guy I think we should be watching next year, so I'll leave it on that. And that is all. Remember, this is not a prediction, it's just the best 22 as of right now. Best available players. Let me know what you think down below. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, go Bombers.